Hello! Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone who's watching. Not hello, everyone. Some people aren't watching, and not hello to them. And welcome to episode 3, just adjusting my camera slightly, of Geek Speak, the Geeks on the Go official podcast. I am, as always, your host, KD, and I'm bloody knackered. Not gonna lie. It has been a week. It has been a long week. It has been a week filled with stuff, some good stuff, some disappointing stuff. I think you all know what I'm talking about when I say that disappointing decisions were made this week. Namely, that none of the games I've played in the last year won any awards at the Game Awards. That's the main thing I was getting at there. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about lots and lots of things. Some good things, some less good things. In all seriousness, though, one thing I will not be talking about today will be the recent general election. It's an easy topic for me to talk about for the next 3 hours, especially seeing as though there's no one actually here to argue with me about it. But I don't. I feel as though, even though the whole point of this podcast is for me to be able to talk about whatever I want, regardless of how geeky it is, I don't think there's really any benefit to doing so at this point, because it's done. It's done and dusted. All we can do now is just trying to make the best of it. And for anyone who's watching who did vote in the way that I did not, fair play to you. Feel free to DM me, give me your reasons why, because people I know voted for parties that I didn't think anyone should have gone for, and I'm interested to know why. Not in a sort of "you're an idiot, here's why you're wrong" sort of way, but in a each of these parties clearly appealed to certain people, and I'm interested. I am genuinely interested. Maybe it'll change my mind. Maybe. That'd be fantastic. Right, so the main things we're going to be focusing on today, just a quick rundown. We are, of course, going to have to bring up the Game Awards. I've already brought them up a little bit, but we're going to go through it and talk about the winners and what games I feel as though were somewhat shunned, that either should have won certain categories or should have been nominated in the first place and weren't, which was weird. While I do love this mug, I kind of feel as though I should have gone for my my Anchorman one. That would have made more sense for this, wouldn't it? Put some scotch in it. At the moment, it's cup of soup. Cup of soup. Alright, we're going to be talking about the Xbox One X. We don't know much about it, but given that I'm mainly an Xbox streamer, I've kind of got to bring it up a bit, don't I? A few new trailers dropped over the last week or so, namely the ones I was going to point out: the Black Widow trailer, the Wonder Woman trailer, the Bond trailer, featuring the first ever female 007. It's a ladies week in the trailers. Isn't actually what I was meant to be getting at, but now I'm reading back my list of what I'm talking about today, and it very much is. We've got some news on the new Batman film. There's brief stuff there, and then there's some stuff about Star Wars, DCEU, and some stuff about things going on YouTube and Twitch. Because I always like to have a bit of a bitch and a moan about YouTube and Twitch. Well, not a bitch and a moan, more a report. Sorry, just I'm getting people talking to me left, right, and centre as far as this goes. So, for anyone who is new to the podcast, hello, welcome. Please do hit that follow button if you haven't already. Basically, the way this works is it is a podcast. It is, for today, just me chatting to you guys. I will be getting guests on periodically as things go. and the topics are pretty much anything I want to talk about at that given period of time. However, the difference between this and other podcasts is that this whole thing is being recorded live, rather than me recording it and then uploading it at a later time, which means that those of you that are in the chat now, you can actually have some input. I'm just thinking the chat's not all that visible at the moment. I may have to change the color of it as I go. At least I would, if it would give me the option. Right, so first thing we were going to talk about today was going to be the Xbox One X. I wanted to have a chat with you guys about, because obviously this is something cool. This is something potentially terrible. In fact, we don't know. So what I am going to do is we're actually going to watch the announcement trailer for it. I've got it here. Let's pop it up on the big screen, and we're just going to have a watch, and I'm going to give you some opinions as we go. Although, like I've said, there's not much to it yet. So let's have a look-see. We've got some floaty stuff.
Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream.
I'm sure this is something I should recognize.
And that you could have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time.
Are they saying this is going to give us time travel possibilities?
And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, fulfill all your wishes.
So we can see it's rendering a world in that looks really good.
Let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. And then you would get more and more adventurous.
Right, driving games,
further and further out gambles as to what you would dream.
Yeah. Halo. I'm obviously going to be getting Halo. Definitely getting Halo.
Where you are now.
Now, if it actually looked like that, that'd be pretty sick. You know, if it had a way of showing what game you were playing. So this is it. Fan on the top. Okay. The controller is slightly different. I do like that about Xbox. There is a certain amount of consistency with their controllers. Holiday 2020. So about this time next year, we should be getting that, which makes sense again. I will flick back to the controller again. Don't worry. It's not cool. It's a PC with an operating system and UI block that will only play Microsoft discs. Yeah, I think that is kind of the big issue with it, is it's not really a console at the moment. It is essentially a PC tower. Let's just go back and have another quick look at it. All right, so there it is with the controller next to it. So you can get an idea of the size. Now, unless they've made the controller a lot bigger, from that perspective, it actually looks smaller than the Xbox One. But we know that it's about as deep as it is wide. So this thing is definitely a tower. Which the problem is, that's pretty much all we know about it at the moment. And that's why there are reactions coming around, much like Blight's there, about how it's essentially a PC tower. You might as well have a PC at this point. So I'm hoping it's going to give us something really special. Now, the new button that they've introduced on the controller there is a share button, and supposedly that's going to give you the option to share moments while playing directly to social media, which would be quite cool. A lot of what I have to do at the moment when I'm playing games is take screenshots and then upload them to a mobile app. Switch is even worse. Don't even get me started on how I get screenshots from Switch, because that whole thing is a mess. But if I could have the option to upload straight away, maybe even have something where I have a specific text that comes up, like, hey, I'm currently playing insert game here, and I've just done, and then say you've just done a boss fight, and that's what the picture is of. If it had a way of tracking what it was, so it would say, I'm playing Borderlands 4, and I've just killed a dozen skags. Something like that. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to come up with a text box, and it's going to want you to write it out and select which of your social media it's going to be sent to. And people don't want that. I hate typing on console. I really do. I really hate it. But that's what we've got at the moment. And that's all we know at the moment. We can assume there's going to be another Halo game. But, I mean, we had one... Was it one or two Halo games on the Xbox One? Yeah, it was two, wasn't it? Halo 4. Wasn't that Xbox One? I honestly can't even remember. I haven't had anything from Halo in a long time. And the last game set up for a sequel. So where's that? I'm an Xbox man, but they've not sold me yet. The thing is, they haven't done as bad yet as when they first marketed the Xbox One. Don't know if you guys remember when they first marketed the Xbox One, but it was a horrendous marketing campaign. It was so bad. They made it so that you couldn't share games. That once you inserted a disc into your Xbox, that was it. They were locked together forever. So you couldn't sell old games. You couldn't share them with friends. It was ridiculous. Online all the time. But yeah. Alright, so what are people saying? Xbox is pretty good at showing what your friends are playing on the live app. That is good. And I would love to see them explore that more, especially seeing as though gaming has, over this generation in particular, become such a social point. It's become far more social than it used to be. I would love to see some more integration with things like Discord, because Discord is the gaming community now. What was I saying? With the state of cancel culture, having a system that allows you to take a chat log on screen in game and post it to the socials will just lead to 10 times more drama for a lot less work. I mean, with any system that they bring to something especially so open and community driven as gaming, there's always going to be abuse of the system. That's just fact. Now, while the graphics there looked incredible, those were clearly pre-rendered graphics that they'd made specifically for that video. If you could promise me that the Xbox One X, or whatever they're going to end up calling it, could have gameplay graphics like that, I'd be pre-ordering mine now. Like, I don't even care. Just at the moment, all we've been given is a box. That's all we know. We know that it's a box, that it has a fan at the top, and that the controller looks almost exactly the same, but with a share button. Now, one thing with this is, if we look at this controller, it is so similar to the current one, which is great because it means I don't have to readjust for the new kind of controller, which you do have to do, if you're a Nintendo player especially. But I'm also really hoping that it's going to mean that my old controllers are compatible, because even though I got it as part of a deal and didn't have to pay extra for it, I've got an Elite controller which still retails for about 120 quid. And I don't want to be in a situation where I can't use this controller on a new console. I hate the fact that they're non-compatible. I got it with the PS4. The PS4, it made a lot of sense because the PS4 brought in that whole thing of like, oh, I got to hold it really steady, or like, you know, the somehow worse than Wii motion controls. And it had games that really supported it. Games like Until Dawn made fantastic use of that controller system. But Xbox has never done anything interesting with its controllers. They're good controllers. I like them. But they've never done anything actually interesting with them. And so it doesn't make sense to me that they can't make them backwards compatible. You know? So the fact that this new one does, it literally looks like the current generation of Xbox controller minus that one button. They're pretty drop proof as well, as Elle points out, which, yeah, I've dropped it quite a few times and it still works, which is great. So yeah, what do you guys think? I know there's not much to go by at the moment. We know that there's a new Xbox console coming out. It's coming out about the same time as the PlayStation 5. I don't really want to report about the PlayStation 5. I don't play PlayStation. I don't like Sony. I don't really like Microsoft either, to be honest. But Microsoft didn't threaten me with an MCU without Spider-Man, so bollocks to them. And that's essentially all I have to say on it at the moment, but I will be following it reasonably closely. So the next thing I was going to talk about this evening was going to be the winners at the 2019 Game Awards, and seeing what your opinions were on them. So I'm going to do it in kind of the reverse order so that we end with Game of the Year. So anyone who hasn't checked this out yet, this is going to be a first for you. And I do have some opinions on many of them. So, first one up is best VR/AR game. So the options, or the nominees were Trover Saves the Universe, No Man's Sky, Blood and Truth, Asgard's Wrath, and Beat Saber. The winner being Beat Saber. Beat Saber seems like a pretty cool game, but at the point I first tried it, there were only like 2 songs. And of course, the songs are the levels. So what that tells me is that every other VR game that came out over the last year must be trash. Which I find difficult. Like, I feel as though No Man's Sky, as long as that's not too glitchy, should be an absolutely phenomenal VR game. And I'm not entirely sure how it would have lost something like Beat Saber. See, now I was wondering about the Rick and Morty VR game, but I couldn't remember if it came out within the last year or if it would have only qualified for the previous year's one. But then Beat Saber's been around for a while as well. I feel as though it's been around for more than a year. Next one, we've got strategy games, which we had Age of Wonders, Anno 1800. That looked like a pretty cool game, kind of very Sims-esque. Total War 3 Kingdoms, Tropico 6, Wargroove, but the winner for that category was Fire Emblem 3 Houses. This is one of the categories that irked me a little bit. I'm not sure when the cutoff is for the decisions on what games are to be nominated. I have a funny feeling that the nominees for this came out the same day that Pokemon Sword and Shield came out. And while Pokemon Sword and Shield definitely has many flaws, I feel as though it's kind of weird when there's a Pokemon game out and it doesn't get put in for a category like strategy. Because for anyone who's just played like the simple one-player campaign, Pokemon it's easy. It is really easy. However, when you get into the multiplayer of it, that game gets difficult, like really difficult. Any of you who've ever played me on Pokemon Showdown will know. You know, I've got 22 years of experience with Pokemon, and I've been beaten on that game by teenagers. But yeah, no, Fire Emblem winning that one, that was a fairly obvious one. So let's see, next one, sport racing game. Not one that I'm overly bothered by, but the winner of this one, I thought was quite cool. So we had Dirt Rally, eFootball Pro Evolution Soccer 2020, F1 2019, and FIFA 20. So we ended up with 2 football games on there, and at least 2 racing games. The winner, funnily enough, Crash Team Racing, nitro fueled, which I didn't actually even know was really a thing, but I used to really enjoy the Crash Bandicoot, Mario Kart style games. Diddy Kong Racing, that was another one that I really enjoyed. So I might have to check that one out. Let's see, what was next? Score and music. So this one, like, honestly, there are so many games that could be nominated for this one. This is another one where, if I'm right and Pokemon missed out on this year, then it definitely needs to be getting a nomination for the 2020 awards. So we had Cadence of Hyrule, which is a really fun game to play on Switch. It is similar to the old top-down Zelda games, but it's one of those ones where you have to move to the beat of the music. So if you swing your sword, but you're out of time with the beat, you're not going to swing your sword. Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, it's a Disney game. You would expect it to have a good soundtrack. Sayonara Wild Hearts. Not heard of that one, actually. But the winner was Death Stranding. It's a Kojima game. Kojima games are essentially films. That's pretty much what they are. You expect a film to have a good score, so a game that's basically on, yeah. Role-playing games. So this one surprised me, actually. The winner for this one was Disco Elysium, and it was up against Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and The Outer Wilds. Now, the only one on that list I've played was The Outer Wilds. And I thought, as RPGs go, it was pretty good. It was basically, it was Fallout, but in space with a Firefly skin. Like, there were so many references to Firefly in it. I think one thing that really let the Outer Wilds down, though, was the lack of end-game content. Once the game was done, there wasn't much point in going back and doing stuff again. Also, while I really enjoyed playing the game, as you guys may know, I've recently been playing Borderlands 3, which again is essentially Fallout but in space, and Borderlands is just better in pretty much every conceivable way. So I can understand why that wouldn't have got the top spot there. I do agree with you, Craig, that Death Stranding did get far more nominations than it should have done. Given that it is basically a walking simulator. Like, every review I've seen of it basically says that, and I'm someone who is very, very tired of this idea of not being willing to say anything against Hideo Kojima. Blech, sorry. I never got into Metal Gear Solid. To be honest, I never got into that many Konami games at all. And I think that his story writing is, at times, just a little bit too weird. I mean, the last Metal Gear game, there was a character in it she's like one of the only female characters in it, who spends the entire game wearing a bikini despite being a soldier, you know, because she has this weird thing where she breathes through her skin. So if she wears clothes, she literally suffocates herself. I'm just like, that's not a video game character concept. That's a porn film concept. I mean, what the hell? So, yeah. I don't really know much about Disco Elysium. But I do enjoy roleplay games, so I may have to check that one out. We have we got mods going. The term boobs was not allowed in my chat. It is now. It's fine. Boobs away, guys. Yeah. So best performance. This one I was totally on board with. Best performance for this one was Mads Mikkelsen in Death Stranding. I don't know much about his performance in it, but it's Mads Mikkelsen. I've never seen him in anything where he was bad. I've never seen him in anything where he was less than memorable, which I think as an actor, in some ways, is better than being good, better than being great. Because I've seen many good, but not memorable performances, and like everything I've seen him in, he's just fantastic. Also, I don't really recognize the other actors. I know my knowledge of voice actors is not fantastic. Norman Reedus was on there as well, but it's Mads Mikkelsen, so I'm down with him winning that. Yeah, that's a good point. Conan O'Brien, he was in a game, wasn't he? What was he in? He was in a game. No. Yes, he was. He was recently. Borderlands has some pretty good voice actors. Has Borderlands been nominated for any? Borderlands has. Okay. I could have seen Borderlands getting a performance nomination. Had Penn and Teller in it. They actually had Penn and Teller come in, despite one of them never talks. Yeah. Person from Fallen Order. What's his name again? Let me look him up. Fallen Order. Penn and Teller are cool. Let's see, who is he? See, I like the actor from Jedi Fallen Order because he was in Gotham, and he gave a very good performance in that. He wasn't actually. But Jedi Fallen Order, if I remember correctly, came out at the same time as Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I think that if that's going to be nominated for anything, it's going to be at the next Game of the Year awards. Side character needs her own story, apparently. I do need to play that game. It's EA. Can they just take Star Wars away from EA, please? Best ongoing game went to Fortnite. I think they need to just stop giving awards to Fortnite. Just stop encouraging them. The other nominees were Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Apex Legend, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Where's Pokemon Go? Pokemon Go has completely changed the game over the last year. We finally got the game we were promised in the trailers, like nearly 3 years ago. We have trading, we have battling, we have Team Rocket, we have up to Generation 5 within the first 3 years of the game being out. we have a game that I have played almost every day for the last 3 years, yet never had to spend a penny on. So, Darwin technically couldn't be nominated because it is still technically in beta. But again, like it could have been in the AR category as well. I don't like the fact that AR and VR are put in the same category, because if I play a game with like an amazing VR experience to it, that to me as a video game is going to be better than anything that's currently available on mobile. And that's not entirely fair, especially since though AR and VR, they're not the same thing. One thing is taking you to a separate reality created virtually within the game. The other one is augmenting your actual reality. So they are different things. Oh yeah, you've been catching shinies while I've been busy driving you places today. Way to go, Well. Well done. I got a shiny Scyther yesterday. I was very pleased with that. Was it yesterday? No. The day before. All the days are running together. Baby Yoda definitely for the Oscars, even though it's a TV show on a streaming platform. Maybe a Grammy. Give Baby Yoda a Grammy. Definitely need that. Best narrative went to Disco Elysium again. I really need to check this game out. I can't remember if I've even seen a trailer for this game. Should I get up the trailer for Disco Elysium in a second? Control was up there, A Plague Tale, Death Stranding, and The Outer Worlds. Now I'm confused. Oh, I'm being an idiot. The Outer Worlds is the game that I played. The Outer Wilds is a completely different game. That isn't confusing in the slightest. Thank you, game creators. Control is a weird one. I was talking with someone today about Control, about video game critics, specifically about a particular style of video game critique website that uses multiple critics. You read a newspaper, they will have one film critic, one game critic, and some people think, that's no good, what if I disagree with them? If you disagree with them, read a different newspaper if you're looking for your film and game reviews. The problem with websites that use multiple ones is you find yourself in a situation where you have a critic who absolutely pans a game like Control, and Control did get absolutely panned. Yet it gets nominated for a Game of the Year award. And while critics can often be wrong, the issue with these particular ones is I have seen cases where they will do a rundown around this time of year of the best and worst games of the year so far, and they will put a game like Control as one of their best games of the year, despite the fact that they gave it something like a 4.5 out of 10. And it's because it's been done by two different critics, and so you never know what you're getting. My advice to the person who was asking me about this earlier, find a critic who has reviewed several games you have played. Ones that you like, ones that you don't like. Find a critic who's not only reviewed them, but has a similar opinion to your own on those games, and then decide whether or not you want to trust them. If you can find multiple critics that feel the same way, go for it. Some people say they like to watch gameplay before they make a decision. I don't have that luxury because for me it does make sense to try and get games as soon as they're released. And also I like playing story-driven games, so I do not want the story to be ruined for me. But yes, so narrative. I'm trying to think if there are any games with like really good narrative that I've played over the last year. Not really. I don't play that many narrative-driven games anymore because they don't stream that well. But anyway, best multiplayer game. So the options here, we had Borderlands 3 for this one, which I think actually, as a multiplayer game, is absolutely fantastic. Two reasons for this. One, not only does it have the standard online multiplayer, but it also has split screen, local multiplayer. And that is something that is missing from games these days. Some of my best memories were having one of my friends over and playing Halo multiplayer with him. Both being able to play through the campaign together and also fight against each other was just the best fun. We didn't care if it was good or not. Elle just brought up Diablo 3. Yeah, but the thing with that is, other than Diablo 3, how many local multiplayer games do I have on my Xbox? Like, there was a point where, because Elle was doing regular Saturday streams with me, I was going out of my way to buy multiplayer games that I actually had no real interest in playing and wouldn't normally have streamed. Arc will allow split screen, but only if you're on an offline server, which is bollocks, because most of the fun of Arc is being on the servers with other people. So yeah, Jackbox obviously is a good one as well. Again, but that's a game that's had a pack come out recently. Could have been nominated for that. So let's see, we had Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, it's pretty good, I did play that for a little bit, and Tom Clancy's The Division 2. The winner was Apex Legends. Interesting that Fortnite wasn't even nominated for that one, despite actually winning Best Ongoing Game. Apex, I mean, for a multiplayer game, I can understand why it won. It was a AAA game with a new skin that was released for free and is still free. Although it's not the type of game I'm really that into, just give it awards. Give it awards. They released a AAA game for free. Okay? That, they deserve awards. I don't really care about people's opinions of the game itself. When I played it, I wasn't good at it, but that was because of me. That wasn't because of the game. The game worked fine. It worked fine. So, what's next? Mobile game. Again, no nomination for Pokemon Go. But I guess they're specifically going for ones that came out this year. However, there was a Pokemon game that came out this year. Pokemon Masters. That didn't get a nomination. I will admit, I got a little bit bored of it. But one game that did not get a nomination in this category, I'll give you the nominees actually. So there's Call of Duty Mobile, which was the winner. Grindstone, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sky the Children of Light, and What the Golf. I've only actually heard of one of those. But the game that I can't believe isn't on here, and if you haven't played it, go and play it, is Mario Kart Tour. Right? It is a simple game, it is fun, it is bloody addictive, and it's good. If you've got a half decent mobile, and my phone is only half decent, it's a great game, and it should have been nominated, and it's ridiculous that it wasn't. And my camera's like really creeping up at the moment, making it seem like I'm slouching, and I'm not, guys, I'm not. I don't know if I actually affected it in the slightest there. Yeah, Mario Kart Tour absolutely should have been nominated there. Call of Duty winning, fine. I've seen the gameplay for Call of Duty Mobile. It's a good game. It's a really good game on mobile. Again, not the type of game I'm really into, but I would have been okay with Mario Kart not winning. The fact that it wasn't nominated, like, I'm gonna have to go and check out these other games now. So by the next podcast, I might be eating my words on that. Crazy saying it's the bad rep it's got. Why does it have a bad rep? I don't know. Maybe I'll find out. Best independent game, Disco Elysium. Again, I need to watch the trailer for Disco Elysium. I feel as though I am aware of it. but I can't remember it, to be honest. Let's just have a quick look. Disco Elysium official trailer. Let's go for it. This is like a features trailer, so.
Get dressed, detective.
Alright. Is this a mobile game?
The city awaits.
No, I think it's just an indie one.
An open world RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike anything you've seen before.
I do like the art style. It's all like map painting.
With
that you can walk around.
unforgettable characters.
That is quite a cool way of doing it. I feel as though there's a lot of reading
Play
in this
them
game.
against each other.
Ooh, naughty.
Try to help them. Or fall hopelessly in love.
Aww. Take
There are
your clothes off,
cases to be
detective.
solved.
Yeah, I was gonna hope there'd be cases to solve. You're a detective.
Mistakes to be made.
You just punch a kid. This is a game where you can punch kids.
Consequences to be dealt with.
There's a dice rolling element to it. Alright.
Unprecedented freedom of choice. Countless tools for role-playing.
This does seem like a game that might be worth checking out.
Mix and match from wild skills. Be a hero. A prophet. A madman. And the greatest detective the world has ever seen. The role-playing adventure of a lifetime.
Is the rest of this game like ASMR?
Disco Elysium.
Or is it just for the trailer? I don't know. It looks cool. I don't know necessarily if it'd be a game for me. It does look like there's a lot of reading involved. I like some voice actors in games for that very reason. My soup is so cold and gross. Yeah, so the other options were Babra's U, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game. How did Untitled Goose Game not win? It is clearly the best game made in the last year. But yeah, I don't play enough indie games. I need to really find some indie games. Problem is there aren't that many on Xbox or Switch, and I don't really do PC games, so maybe I need to. Right, games for impact. I don't even know what this category means. Games for impact. Is that like the games that hurt the most when you throw them at someone? Goose Game is coming to Xbox. Nice. Gotta get on that. So the winner was a game called Gris. There's also Concrete Genie, Kind Words, Life is Strange 2, and Sea of Solitude. I can't really say much about that category. I don't know what it means. Games for impact. It's what even? Okay, so game direction. So I'm guessing this was like best director of a game. That's good to know. Let me know what good games you've got that are indie. So we had Control, Resi 2, Sekiro, and Outer Wilds, but the winner went to Death Stranding because Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro were involved. No one cares. No one cares that you spend half the game delivering pizza across boring apocalyptic wasteland. I did kind of want this game until I saw like every single bit of gameplay about it, and it really did just look boring. I imagine it's the type of game that it'd be really good to play if you were like watching a film or something while on one screen while playing it, but I couldn't. I'd get so bored. I don't know how easy it'd be to stream either, because one of the things when you're streaming a game, you need to have that. The best games are the ones where there's enough going on so that if the chat's quiet, you can talk about the game, but there's not so much going on that you're completely ignoring the chat. And I feel as though that game wouldn't hold up too well, at least for my style of streaming. Impact games, as an overall example, is Aerys' death in Final Fantasy VII. Alright, so the whole game, essentially, is like... Bwah, to put it in a single sound. Great, you did not win for Best Director. We all know that when it comes to Darwin, the Best Director is probably Karma. Fresh indie game. Fresh indie game. As opposed to independent game. There is a category for fresh indie game. Yet AR and VR are stuck in the same category. And I mean, guess who won it? Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium got 2 awards for the same thing. The others were Gris, My Friend Pedro, Outer Wilds, Slay the Spire, and Untitled Goose Game. So, why? Why are there 2 categories for indie games? Best fighting game. The first one so far to be won by a Nintendo game with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That was up against Jump Force. Jump Force shouldn't have received the nomination. Jump Force was wasted potential. It could have been huge for the fans. For anyone who doesn't know, Jump Force brought together like so many popular anime characters. You could have Goku fighting Yu-Gi-Oh! And what was it? There was One Piece in there as well. Just like loads of cool anime characters and stuff. But supposedly the game was all style, no substance. That's pretty much what every review of it I saw. Dead or Alive 6. It's 2019, and we've still got fighting games that are literally based around the concept of large-breasted women in bikinis fighting each other. Like, okay. Mortal Kombat 11. I have seen some bits of that. That does look pretty good as fighting games go. Again, it's not a genre I'm hugely into. And Samurai Showdown with the nominees there. Smash Bros has always been a consistently good game. And while I haven't actually played Ultimate myself, it's not a game that has evolved that much. So I'm assuming it has maintained its consistency. But then fighting games don't tend to evolve much past its basic kind of thing. I bet you can do the same keystrokes on a brand new game of Street Fighter as you could with one from 20 years ago if you wanted to get a Hadouken or something. Dead or Alive is shocking, making people pay 10,000 for it if you want a character. You're joking. You are joking. New Soul Calibur. Yeah, Soul Calibur, I haven't played that in a good while. They've upgraded the Joker appearance in it, apparently. Yeah, I'm surprised Soul Calibur didn't end up in there. Right, family game. Best family game. This one's quite funny. So, we've got Yoshi's Crafted World, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which has to be the first time a fighting game makes it into family game, Super Mario Maker 2, Ring Fit Adventure, and the winner, Luigi's Mansion 3. So fully going for that stereotype there for Nintendo. They are the only ones nominated. Nintendo could not have lost in that category. But hey, there we go. Okay, so there's a few here I don't really know much about. So there's like best esports team, which went to G2 Esports. Don't know who they are. Best esports player, Booker. I don't recognize any of the names. I don't follow esports. I'm sorry. As soon as you put sport in the name, I lose interest. Best esports host, Siox. Can't even pronounce the guy's name. That's a category that would be great to see Darwin going in, because with the whole director thing, that would be quite good. So next one, esports game of the year. There's a lot of esports one. That went to League of Legends, which this is my issue with this whole thing. Fortnite, Overwatch, Dota 2, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. While they are still playable, I'm 99% certain none of those games came out in the last year. I'm fairly certain at least half of them are older. So why are they up? Why are they in this category now? Unless they've done something within the realm of esports that is very different, or maybe they only became esports this year. But Dota 2 definitely didn't. Dota 2 has been an esport basically as long as there have been esports. CSGO as well. CSGO has been an esport. That has to be one of the first esports, surely. They're ignoring the 3-year beta cycle. Wow. Yeah, I did hear about that. A 16-year-old won 3.2 million in a Fortnite tournament. That's insane. That is so crazy. He's set for life now because he played a video game. It's incredible. Best esports event, League of Legends World Championship 2019. What else was there? There was the International, IEM, Fortnite World Cup, EVO 2019, and the Overwatch League Grand Finals. League of Legends, when it comes to esports, has such a solid following. Like, it's clear. We had esports coach. I don't know who any of them are. Right, content creator of the year. This one does relate to me a bit. That went to Shroud. Now the interesting thing with this is I don't really recognize the other content creators that came up here. So this would have been covering any kind of gaming content, namely I would imagine things like streaming platforms and YouTube. The interesting one, and I'll be getting to this a bit later on with Shroud winning, is of course Shroud is one of the streamers, one of the very big streamers on Twitch who has left for Mixer. So we will be discussing that later because Twitch must be not too pleased about that. Best community support. This is something where I want to see Darwin one day. That went to Destiny 2, which is very interesting because apparently the community support on Destiny 1 was kind of trash. Apex Legends. They released a AAA game for free. How did Destiny 2 beat them? They offer free back rubs to everyone who played the game. Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege were also nominated. Best audio design. I was very surprised with this one. There's not a single Nintendo game in here, and Nintendo are known for their audio being pretty decent. They don't do much with voice actors though, which I think is what's messed them up. But Sekiro was in that, Resident Evil 2, Gears 5, Death Stranding, Control, and the winner was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The interesting thing with this, and we're going to be getting towards these categories more now, is this was the only one really so far, except for maybe that Nintendo one earlier, where I'm very aware of all the games. This is like the first like proper full-on, well-marketed AAA type thing. Like saying, still say it'll fast. You're not going to have an online gambling gaming section, just massive money making industry. Yeah. Why don't they have best game for gambling? Because that's what loot boxes are, and they're in so many games now, so many games. Best art direction. So the winner for this was Control, which was very, very surprising for me. Death Stranding obviously was nominated for this. Gris, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro, which artistically was fantastic, and Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Now, those of you who saw me streaming Link's Awakening, you guys know that I was absolutely blown away by the art style of this. The graphics. I think graphically, Link's Awakening is the best game of the last year. I know its graphics were relatively simple, but it looked like it was claymation. It didn't look like it was a CG version of claymation. It looked like claymation. It was incredible. It was bright. It was beautiful. It had me on several occasions just actually stop to look at how beautiful that game looked. So the fact that did not win that category, I feel like it was a bit of a jip. Right, best action adventure game. Now this is another messed up one, because the next category is best action game. So best action adventure game went to Sekiro, but we also had Link's Awakening, Resident Evil 2, Death Stranding, Control, and Borderlands 3. I didn't play Sekiro. I saw lots of clips of it. It does look like a great action adventure game. However, there are some really, really fantastic games in there. I've absolutely fallen in love with Borderlands 3, Link's Awakening. I could talk about for absolutely ages. Death Stranding should not be in that category. You're playing a pizza delivery man. If you call that action adventure, no. Just no. Get out of it. Best action game went to Devil May Cry 5. The other nominees being Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Call of Duty, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. Interesting that action and action adventure game, there was no crossover between games being nominated in each section. I feel as though that was one where, most games have an element of action to them, so maybe getting just 6 nominees into a single category they struggled with, so they decided to go for an adventure one as well. But why not just call it adventure? Why action adventure? Why can't it just be adventure? Right, and Game of the Year, the one everyone has been waiting for. So, The Outer Worlds was nominated for this one. Borderlands 3 was not. And as I've said, I think Borderlands 3 was a better game. I really liked Outer Worlds. I really, really did. I thought it was really good, but I got it for free through Game Pass. If I paid full price for it, I'm not sure I would have been as thrilled, because as I've said, once I completed the main story, I did not feel any desire to continue playing. There was no real end game content or anything like that. No multiplayer. Like Borderlands, I finished Borderlands 3 yesterday, and there's still loads to do, and the multiplayer. The story was okay. Smash Bros Ultimate, that was up, so we did get a Nintendo game in there. You gotta have the token Nintendo game in there. Resi 2, obviously, didn't play it but looked great. Never been a Resi fan, to be honest. Death Stranding, of course that's going to be in there, because Kojima made a game, let's just nominate him for everything. Control, which, like I said, Control got absolutely panned by critics. to the point where I decided not to get it. It looked like a game I was quite interested in, but it's been nominated for so many awards. The winner was Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Again, game I haven't played, but looks amazing. And I've seen lots of people streaming it, lots of content creators doing work with it. It does just look pretty fantastic. But if I just take this list here, Control was nominated for, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different awards, and that is a game that certain websites I don't want to mention for the sake of getting in trouble absolutely panned, and that's kind of messed up. Alright, so what about you guys? Were there any games you wanted to see in there but did not? Any games where you disagree with who won based on the nominees that I read out to you? Let me know. Let me know what you think. I've given my opinion. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. That's all a podcast essentially is, isn't it? You guys listening to someone's opinion on something. Right. Okay. So, other things I wanted to talk about. We've had. Oh yes, sorry. Goose Game. Kitty has just pointed out. Yeah, Goose Game should have won something. Should have won something at the very least. Hey Tailano, how are you doing? Good to have you here. Oh, I'll tell you what. I just remembered I have not used this in a while, guys. Give this. Is it this one? No, it's not that. Give this link a click for me. I would appreciate it. Please do help us promote the channel as much as possible. I've just sent you a link so that you can tweet that I'm streaming, and it does all the work for you. It's super simple. Super simple. Alright, so we have had we've had quite a few trailers over the last week now. And there have been some very, from the kind of geeky community, there have been, as I mentioned earlier, some very good-looking female-led projects coming out. I don't mean good-looking females. That's your opinion. I mean that the trailers look good. The first one I'm going to talk about is the trailer for Black Widow. I had many qualms about this film when they first announced it, for several reasons. One, I'm not a huge Scarlett Johansson fan. Two, I wasn't sure the character, based on how it was portrayed in the MCU, could necessarily carry a film. And three, I don't like prequels, and it was going to be a prequel. Prequels remove any real sense of danger for the protagonist, and I don't like that. The exception being the reboots of the Star Trek films, because the first film deals with time travel, so it makes it so that we are watching a different timeline. This is not a young version of the Kirk and crew that we know from the TV series. This is a completely different continuity. No one is safe. Except that everyone's safe. So yeah, that's essentially my problem with prequels. However, the trailer for it does look good. We see a couple of little fight sequences. They look pretty cool. We get to see a look at Red Star, who looks like the love child of Captain America and Thor circa Endgame, which is pretty cool. And Dan Harbour he's a fantastic actor. Just, what else can I say about him? He is just a fantastic actor, so it's great to see him in it. It's only a teaser trailer, so I don't really know if I want to shift my opinion just yet. I don't know when it's happening. Like, it is a prequel, but is it happening prior to Iron Man 2? I haven't looked into this. It probably is. Or is it happening between some of the films? Is it going to give us anything that is going to further Phase 4? Like, every Marvel movie has to, in some way, contribute towards the phase that it is in. With a prequel, are we going to get that? Because, the closest we've had to a prequel really so far was the first Captain America, which was a prequel to the MCU films that had come out so far. At that point, we'd had Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. Had we had Iron Man 2? I think, yeah, we'd had Iron Man 2 as well before we had a Cap film. And it was a prequel to them, but it was not for Cap himself. Are you guessing there, Craig, that it's between Civil War and Infinity War? Because that is a good period for it to be in. The problem I have with that, though, is the one thing people want from this film, and if it is in that period we are not going to get it, is what the hell happened in Budapest. Okay? Because she and Hawkeye remember that very differently, and I want to know which one of them was right. Okay? But it is a good period for it to happen in. And from what I remember of the trailer, it does make a certain degree of sense. But yeah, we need answers. I want to know what happened in Budapest. Can we have, at the very least, a flashback of Budapest in the film? Please. Feige, if you're listening, please. No, you can't really say that Thor was a standalone, seeing as though Loki became the villain for the first Avengers film, and that the events of Thor were what drove him towards that. So it's you can't really claim that. Iron Man, you could have argued, because at the time they didn't know if they were going to be able to do an MCU, but then you had that after credit scene with Nick Fury talking about the Avengers. So yeah, that one very much did contribute, at least in some way. Are you winning, El? Do you have more points than I do? I don't think that you do. You might. I don't know. Okay. All right. So another trailer to hit was the trailer for Wonder Woman 1984. It looks pretty decent. However, unpopular opinion here, I did not like the first Wonder Woman film. And I'm going to tell you why. We're not watching the trailer. I'm already probably going to get hit by some copyright claims for what we've watched so far. Do you guys want to watch the trailers? Do you want that as part of the podcast? If you want to see the trailers, type trailer in the comments in bold capitals, and I will give you a commentary as we go of all of these trailers. Wonder Woman 84 is a good trailer, but I challenge you to find me a bad DCEU trailer. The trailers are all good, and that's why Aquaman is the only one of them I didn't see in the cinema, because I was like, I'll give him another chance. Yeah. Craig saying Trailer Park. That hasn't just named yet. Alright, do we want to see the Black Widow trailer? I've already talked about it, but screw it. Let's do it. I'm gonna get copyright claimed for this video anyway. But my channel's not monetized, so suck it. All right, let's have a look.
I used to have nothing.
All right, so this is from Age of Ultron.
And then I got this job.
Some Avengers. Great. Okay.
This family.
Had a bit of Winter Soldier in
But
there.
nothing lasts forever.
Half the trailer so far has been flashbacks from other films.
Heard you had to leave in a hurry.
You know, like when, especially with like comedy films and stuff, when you're just like, I wonder if all the good jokes are in the trailer. That worries me. When in the trailer, they spend 15 of the first 30 seconds showing flashbacks to other films. Right.
It's never easy these days.
It's never easy these days.
So what are you going?
All right, hang on a second. We've got a de-aged General Ross here. So this is one of the reasons why I wasn't sure about when this is set, because he has quite clearly had some work done to him. He looks younger there than he did in Hulk. So, are we sure about when this is set?
What are you going to do?
I've lived a lot of lives, but I'm done running from my past.
I know you're out there.
I know you know I'm out here. So we're gonna talk like grown-ups?
Is that what we are?
Right, so a slight issue I have with this is I get that she's got herself an American accent now. She's been living in America for a while, she is a spy. However, surely when you're around someone speaking in your native accent, it's just instinctual to go back to it. I mean, my dad's Irish, and most people struggle to understand him. But when he's around other Irish people, his accent goes so much thicker. Theory, the flashback set during Budapest. Right, okay. She trained to be not her. That's a fair point, I suppose. But we haven't seen her speak Russian. She does so in Avengers. That looked painful.
Good to see you too, sis.
What brings you home?
I'm curious to know how well she would actually know if that is her biological sister.
We have to go back to where it all started.
I was got the impression she was one of those orphans
One thing's for sure.
turned super spies.
It's gonna be a hell of a reunion.
Now, is that dude, is that meant to be Hawkeye? Maybe just another guy with a bow? This is literally going to be my favourite bit of the film.
Family. Back together again.
You got fat.
Just like to point out, not a single actor there is Russian. Actually, I don't know about her sister. That's a fair point. But I am very worried that Red Star there is going to get himself killed in this one as a way of explaining why he wasn't in any of the others. Alright, so no, we're good. We don't need to see small details. Right, so yeah, there's the Black Widow trailer. She's a known villain of Black Widow. Yeah. New cosplay. So you want me to cosplay as him? I could. I do it. I've got the beard. So I have that as my next cosplay. I'd be well up for that. It's essentially a Captain America costume, but painted red. Could make it work. The guy with the bow. Yeah, it's Taskmaster. They've changed the way he looks in the comics. He's got like a skull face kind of mask going on. He's featured in quite a few Deadpool comics as well, because do you remember the scene in Civil War where Cap and Iron Man are fighting, and Iron Man uses his suit to analyze the fighting style Cap is using and then come up with countermeasures to it. That's essentially what Taskmaster does. He analyzes an opponent's fighting style and then is able to come up with a way of countering it. The reason why he's been in Deadpool comics so often is because Deadpool is so chaotic and unpredictable. He is the one person in the entire Marvel universe that Taskmaster cannot use his abilities on. Change for China as they banned skulls. That is actually really interesting. That is actually one of the reasons why they had to make a lot of differences with Star Wars The Force Awakens. I have a friend who works at Pinewood, and he'd probably get in trouble for me saying this, but he did tell me about some stuff that was happening with the various Star Wars films. I knew that there was a scene, for example, in The Last Jedi where Luke says to Rey, "Who are you?" Which obviously is a big deal because people had so many theories back in the day about how Rey was a former student of Luke's. And one of the things that he told me about was that they shot scenes with McGregor and Hayden Christensen where they were supposedly meant to be coming back as Force ghosts, but they had to cut those scenes because China does not allow films with ghosts in. And then unfortunately the films ended up flopping in China anyway because they hadn't seen the original trilogy or the prequels because they have ghosts in. So yeah. Are you guys going to be going crazy with the bloody heists again? Because I can't read what you guys are saying. I'm trying not to look at the chat while I'm actually talking, but then I do want to kind of read it back and stuff like that. And there's just so much heist stuff. It's heist everywhere. But yeah, Taskmaster is a character that I would love to see in the films. And I hope they're doing well. I think it's a shame that he's not going to be a Deadpool villain, but you never know. You never know. I did actually go on a channel recently that had the new Twitch point system, which is still in beta, but I'm really hoping that they're going to roll that out pretty soon. It essentially gives you points in the same way that you're getting them for this, but you can actually spend them on stuff like exclusive emotes and that kind of thing. Important question, do I think DC is improving? No. No, I don't. Well, no. DC, yes, because Joker, it had its problems, but it was a phenomenal film. It was really fantastic. The DCEU, however, I haven't seen a film from the DCEU that is as good as the worst MCU film I've seen. And that's me being completely honest. And I'd like to say here, I actually think Man of Steel, I really like Man of Steel. I know it's a lot more dark and gloomy than people expect from a Superman film, but I think they did a pretty decent job with it. I also think that Ben Affleck is the best on-screen Batman. He has, in my opinion, the best combination of both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale was a fantastic Batman, other than his inability to breathe through his nostrils. But his Bruce Wayne didn't really do anything for me. It focused too much on the fact that he's still Batman, but without a mask on. I wanted to see Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton, fantastic Bruce Wayne. His Batman wasn't even remotely intimidating. And George Clooney and Val Kilmer, just... do we even really want to put them in the category? Shazam was okay, but it was only okay. Yeah, the channel point system has been live for a while, but it's not been rolled out to every channel yet. I did go and check it out the other day, but I'll have another look, unless I missed it recently. They've got the new dashboard, so maybe I do have it now. I don't know. I'll have a look in a bit. New items. Got the founder badge, got the new ads, poll, stream manager, Chris. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything yet, but I'll have another proper look at it later. I need to do some work on the stream and the studio. The studio's still not complete. Not even close. Watched crossover, made you angry with Batman. Yeah. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I've been binge watching Batwoman so that I'd see as much of it as possible. I actually quite like Batwoman. It's a pretty decent show. But I haven't watched any of Infinite Crisis yet. I'm not really going to talk about it today. I said the other day that I'm going to talk about Infinite Crisis in the next podcast. I'm going to do at least one more before the end of the year. And I'm going to talk about it then because I want to give everyone the opportunity to actually watch it, because I'm going to be going heavily into spoiler territory. So I figured, let's do this podcast now where I can give you guys the warning that I'm going to be going into spoiler territory when I watch Infinite Crisis. And yeah, I've avoided as much spoilers as possible. I've been avoiding watching clips on YouTube and stuff about it. Kitty talking about her anesthesiologist again, saying that it looks like me crossed with Jake. That would be an odd combination. And Taylano, whose dad has a tattoo of Heath Ledger's Joker. Nice. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings should be a hard tie into the MCU as it is now. I don't know. I feel as though it could do for the Asian market what Black Panther did for the black market. And certainly it can't do worse than what Iron Fist did. God, Iron Fist was so bad. It was really, really so bad. I would love to see Shang-Chi in the MCU. I've never read any Shang-Chi comics, but I've seen him in other ones, and like he and Spider-Man have a really nice relationship. For example, he starts teaching Peter martial arts, so that not only does he not just have to rely on his spider sense, but that he can actually enhance it through the use of martial arts rather than just reflexes. But we've got magic, and obviously people want to see the Mandarin, and we're not going to get to see him against who we really want to see him against, but hey, we still get it. And Cray's right. There's some experimentation going on with this phase, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. That was essentially done as a dare. They heard that DC weren't going to do a Wonder Woman film because they thought that her whole thing was a little bit too ridiculous, and so they were like, let's take one of our properties that's been cancelled a dozen times and has a talking raccoon and walking tree. You know, I actually do agree with Cray on this. Black Panther was a little bit overrated. It's a good film, but it's not as good as everyone harped on about with it. It's kind of slow paced, and I feel as though there are Marvel films that were more worthy of Oscars or Oscar nominations. But then I firmly am against the fact that Winter Soldier didn't receive any. I'm also really, really, to this day, annoyed about the fact that the DCEU won an Oscar before the MCU did. Like what? What? It was for best makeup as well. I'm sorry, but the makeup in that film is trash. They should have been nominated and then unnominated just for the Joker I mean, it looked terrible. And Killer Croc. First of all, Killer Croc shouldn't be in Suicide Squad. They just didn't want to do a CGI King Shark, which they were totally shown up on when the CW did King Shark, and with a TV show budget, it wasn't that terrible. And when I say with TV show budget, I mean in the same way that you look at the CGI on Doctor Who and you're like, oh, bless them, they're trying. They're trying, and it's not so bad that it's distracting. That's what I want from TV CGI. Not so bad that it's distracting. Simple as that. But this film, this multi-million-dollar film, couldn't do King Shark. And so they made Killer Croc, who's meant to be like a 15-foot tall part crocodile man. He was just a regular dude with a skin condition. And that won Best Makeup. Suicide Squad, CW actors hate the DCEU. I know they do, and I don't blame them for hating it, because they introduced the Suicide Squad in the Arrowverse, and then they had to completely abandon it because Warner Brothers told them to, because they were like, we're going to do a Suicide Squad film, so now you're not allowed to, which sucked. Yeah, the Flash CGI is pretty decent overall. There's some lousy stuff. You've got to watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, like just watching what the actors have to do that then gets CG'd, especially like the speed stuff, like him making the tornadoes come out of his hands, and it's actually just the actor there just going like that. It's amazing. It's amazing. Woman that plays Oliver's sister was angry that CW Flash wasn't in movie. I get it though. I do. I think the issue was more that the Flash that we saw in the Justice League movie showed that Snyder wasn't a Justice League fan. Reason being, that Flash was quite clearly based on the Flash from the Justice League cartoon, which is amazing. If you want a good animated show to go watch, go do that. The DC animated universe it's great. It's really, really great. But the Flash in that series was revealed to be Wally West, who was the third Flash. Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West. There may have been other ones in between, but I don't know Flash well enough. So Wally was the one who was meant to be the kind of the jokester, the awkward teen type character, or well, teenager trapped in a man's body kind of thing. So obviously the CW went down a completely different route with the look of Wally as well. But I'm kind of okay with the fact that Barry from the TV show wasn't the same one in the films, because while I think he is very good in everything, he's a very good TV actor. I don't know if I could see him leading a franchise like The Flash on the big screen. The same thing was said to the actors in the Netflix Marvel series. Those films were in the MCU. They were part of it. There were references throughout them to whatever Marvel films were going on at the time. However, it's Charlie Cox, is that his name? Guy who played Matt Murdock, Daredevil. He said in an interview, this was way back. I don't think they'd even done Jessica Jones yet. He was told that if they did a Daredevil movie, he wouldn't necessarily be the one playing Daredevil, which I think was a real shame with him, because I could see him doing that caliber of acting. But I mean, they essentially hired film actors to play those roles anyway. The thing with Batman and Batwoman, again, I need to see Infinite Crisis before I can say for absolute certain. I've watched as much of Batwoman up to Infinite Crisis as you can. So I'm like one episode behind now. The problem I have is the first episode of Batwoman, they're on like, so I think I've watched like 8 episodes maybe. The first episode is her origin one. However, the last crossover event, which was a year ago, Batwoman is already established within Gotham. So yeah. There are certain characters within the CW that they cannot introduce, like the fact that they're allowed to have Superman as long as he's not a lead. They're not allowed to have Wonder Woman. I don't think they're allowed to have Batman as a lead either. But then what are they going to do with Batman? Because pretty much everything they can do with Batman, they've already done with Green Arrow. Yeah. No Harley, however, prior to their Suicide Squad ban, they did have one of the original Harley Quinn voice actors in the first Suicide Squad themed episode. We just saw the pigtails like a silhouette in a jail cell, saying something like, "Can I join in?" But in that very iconic Harley Quinn voice that Margot Robbie won't do, which I think is bull. It's Harley Quinn's voice. Do Harley Quinn's voice. I know it's your interpretation, but your interpretation's wrong. Should we have a look at the Wonder Woman trailer? Let's have a quick look at that, because we've gone into full-on DC mode here, so we might as well flick over and have a look. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Elle, letting me know that she's found my thermal shirt, so that's good. I'm going out Pokemon hunting tomorrow, so that's going to be good. Yes, that is true. It was an Easter egg, but they literally hired the original actor for Harley Quinn and had her sound like Harley Quinn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's have a look at this this Wonder Woman trailer then, see if this is any cop. And then I'm going to explain why I didn't like the first Wonder Woman film.
My life hasn't been what you probably think it has. We all have our struggles.
Have you ever been in love?
A long, long time ago. You?
So many times. Yeah, all the time.
I do like Kristen Wiig. She is good. It is promising. So again, we're going prequel territory. You know how I feel about prequels.
Life is good, but it can be better.
We're just using the sets from Stranger
Why
Things.
shouldn't it be?
Everyone loves the 80s now. Let's do an 80s film.
Is to want it. Think about finally having everything you always wanted.
If you're trying to figure out whose voice that is, it's the Mandalorian.
You can save the world.
No.
The fact that he's in this is going to come up in my critique.
Everyone must see.
Quite nice how they were shooting in that rhythm there. That's pretty badass. All right, I like that. That was pretty awesome.
The world needs you. You know what you need to do.
You need to go and punch stuff really hard. She's really making use of that lasso.
Nothing good is born from lies. And greatness is not what you think.
Is she swinging on lightning? Apparently so.
Art. not just a trash can.
It's just a trash can. Yeah.
I do like Chris Pine. All right. No, we don't want to see that. That's all fine. All right. So, Wonder Woman fought in World War One. In the last movie. And is it a real sequel if it's 30 years later? It's more than 30 years. World War One ended in 1918. True, yeah. Her dad is a Greek god. She was made from clay. Does that mean she goes really solid if she gets too hot? Like, Diana, you've been very naughty. You're grounded. Get in the kiln. Just mothering there. Right, so issues I have with the original Wonder Woman film. I'm going to break these down as quickly as possible. It's been quite a while since I've seen it. It wasn't a terrible film, but I preferred it the first time I saw it, several years previously, but it was set in World War II and the main character was Captain America. The film draws so many parallels from Captain America. It's unreal, to the point where, and let's just say now, I am going to be going into spoilers for Wonder Woman. So if you haven't seen it and you want to, just watch Captain America again. The film ends with a guy who is a captain called Steve going onto a large futuristic, for the time, plane filled with futuristic bombs that are planned for several places around the world, and then dying off screen only to return at a later date in time. That right there, that's Captain America. I could be describing either film I could be describing there. The thing that really, really bothered me about Wonder Woman was it started off with great potential in that she didn't know that she had superpowers. Somehow, despite the fact that she spent most of her life training and fighting, she did not know that she was special. I don't know how she went her entire life living a life like that and not knowing that she was superpowered. Because it's not even like Spider-Man level superpowers. She is someone who we have seen take a punch from Doomsday, the guy who killed Superman, and she gets like headbutted by Superman in Justice League and doesn't even have a scratch. All right, she is like near Omega level, you know. So, well, you say she never left the island, meaning she wouldn't know if it's super. However, she is significantly stronger, faster, yada yada, than the other Amazonians. They're pretty good, but she's way better than them as well. But that's not even my big problem with this. At the beginning of the film, there are moments where she suddenly realizes, ooh, I can do this. This is pretty cool. There's the bit where she jumps over to the tower before she steals the sword. And she's not sure if she's going to make it. And then she easily does. And she's like, okay, I have a new superpower. That's pretty awesome. And had they carried on the film like that, it would have been great. The moment that really ruined it for me was the moment where she walks out into no man's land. And everyone made a big deal of it, like how heroic she was being, because she was getting shot at, like, you know, with like machine guns and that kind of thing. At that point, enough had happened that she knew those bullets weren't going to kill her. And the kind of simile, metaphor, I'm not sure, analogy, whatever it is that I use for this, is let's say that you see a child in the middle of the road, okay, and there are cars coming and going, zipping past really quickly, and you run out and you grab that child and you get that child to safety. Even if you don't get hurt in the slightest, what you did was an act of heroism, because you put your own life at risk to save that of another's. And I think it would be very hard to find someone who would disagree with that as a classification of someone being heroic. What Wonder Woman did in that moment, the moment that is thought to be her big heroic moment, her first real act of heroism, is she ran across the road, she saved the child, but there wasn't a vehicle in sight. The road was completely empty. It was dry, so there wasn't even a chance of her slipping up. It was a well-paved tarmac road. There were no potholes for her to trip over or anything like that. She was safe. So her act of heroism going out into no man's land there, had they kept going with this her discovering her powers as she went thing, and she went up there not knowing that she was bulletproof, that would have been an act of heroism. And you could have had a wonderful moment where maybe she gets shot, and there's this moment where she's like, oh no, I've been shot, and then realizes, oh, you guys are in trouble now. The other thing that's always bothered me with Wonder Woman is the way she deflects bullets, using the bracers to do that. It looks cool and everything, but if you can survive a punch from Doomsday, a headbutt from Superman, and whatever else, you are definitely bulletproof. All right, let's take Brandon Routh Superman. Okay, you literally see a bullet hit him in the eyeball and get crushed. All right, and then having this character headbutt you, and you don't even have a scratch, sweetie. You're definitely bulletproof. You're definitely. So yeah, those were my main problems with it. The third act was absolute trash. There's no two ways about that. The villains were over the top and hammy. The film was incredibly overrated, and while it wasn't a terrible film, I think I would have enjoyed it more had it not got so much hype. I wasn't going to go see it because of how bad Batman vs Superman was, and then I saw that it got like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. In fact, actually, it was only the critics. I went to see it day of release, so it was only the critics review, and at that point it was on 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. And normally I trust Rotten Tomatoes, but yeah. Velocity and density disagree with you. Explain. Because this is an argument I have had many times, and I have had this argument with people who know their stuff when it comes to velocity and density, and I would argue that at the point she received the blows that I mentioned, so the first one being Doomsday and the second one being Superman, that due to circumstances in both situations, the people that she was fighting against at the very least did not care if she survived the fight. It wasn't a friendly tussle. Neither of them were holding back. And I mean, if we just take Doomsday, for example, Doomsday was a dude who had the strength to kill Superman. I would argue with you for days that that a punch from Doomsday would do more damage than a bullet. Dude with long hair on YouTube, I think I know the guy you're on about. Is he the one that does the like Sharpie everywhere? Did a video where you can be invulnerable to damage but still get shot like Wolverine and Deadpool. Wolverine and Deadpool aren't invulnerable, though. They're not. Wolverine's skeleton is made from adamantium, which is almost invulnerable. She's not as dense as Superman, you say. See, the problem with characters like Wonder Woman and Superman, though, is touch. A great example are rhinos. So, for example, there's touch that they feel and touch that other people feel around them. When Lois touches Superman, the impression is not given that he feels like he's made of steel. Otherwise, people would have figured out that he was Superman the first time they introduced themselves and shook his hand. Because you can tell the difference between a fleshy hand that, no matter how strong said person is, still has some give. It is malleable-esque kind of thing. Just, very elasticated, so it doesn't stay as you mold. And a solid object. Touch your hand, then touch a table. They're different things. And Superman, we know, has to be more invulnerable than a table. So I don't know whether density is a factor within it. I think it's more likely that it's a quality of his skin. There's also the idea of what is it that actually powers his strength. Is it that his muscles are denser? Because if that's the case, then kryptonite would not be able to affect his strength, not without literally reducing his muscle mass. So, my theory behind this is that it's something more along the lines of what we see in things like Dragon Ball Z, where they have an aura, an energy around them, and that energy increases their strength. Gohan explains in an episode that the way they're able to fly is that the energy that they shoot, their ki, they put an invisible version of that around them, and then they lift that energy using their powers to control it, and then that allows them to move. And I think that the idea of invulnerable characters like Superman have to have a certain degree of that going on as well. His density is explained with the hair holding the weight that Lex stole in Superman 4. Yeah, in all honesty, I think that the science behind Superman just hasn't been, or at least at that point, hadn't really been explored enough by DC themselves. There's things you got to take into account, like how does Superman shave? That was one of my favorite things with the movie Hancock. That we see him shaving himself, like he literally uses his own nails and does that. But then the issue with that is, so does Hancock have nails that are stronger than his hair? Because it's obviously not proportionate, because I cannot shave myself using my nails. But we're getting onto completely different characters here. Regardless, while a punch from Doomsday might not exactly be equal to a bullet, it is comparable at the very least. And I would find it very strange. I would need to have several arguments with several physicists to convince me that Wonder Woman could take a punch from Doomsday, a headbutt from Superman, and not survive a bullet. So, yeah. But yeah, anyway, I'm not a big Wonder Woman film fan. I'm hoping that's going to be good. They're playing a lot towards the comedy, most of which being provided by Chris Pine. I'm slightly worried from what I've seen there. Kristen Wiig's character, I believe, is meant to be Cheetara. Is that her name? Or is that from Thundercats? The cheetah lady. It does look like the whole awkwardness thing at the beginning really just is so reminiscent of Batman Returns, Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer. That was the name I was looking for. And I'm slightly worried they're going to end up ripping off one of their own films, which fine. Go do a How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother that gave up on ripping off episodes of Friends and actually ripped off one of its own episodes. Amazing. Alright, we also had the new Bond trailer. I'm not going to play that one. I don't have too much to say about it at the moment. I like Bond, but I'm not a huge fan of it. There was the big controversy about the fact that there was going to be a female Bond. That was a load of rubbish. Pretty much everything that was spread about it were people who didn't actually read the original articles, which really bothered me. I remember going round like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, just correcting people who were being so stupid. She's not playing Bond. She's playing the new 007. The trailer makes it very clear, the idea that Bond has retired, and he's retired. They're not going to hold his number for him. You know, so a new 007 is here, and that 007 just happens to be a black woman. To that I say, so what? Like, not even great. Yay. It is great. It is. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely is. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something worth praising that we've got a black female character in something. Ticking demographic boxes should never be a yay great thing. The fact that she's a good actress is what I'm most happy about, because everything I've seen her in, she's been really good. So that's why I'm happy. It's the same reason why I saw someone mentioned Greta Thunberg earlier. How have you pronounced her name? I can't remember. She won Times Person of the Year this year. I think that's awful. I think it's really a sign of the world we live in that she won. Don't get me wrong, she's done some fantastic stuff, and this again is another one of those things where it sounds like I'm about to say something really controversial, but I'm actually not. I think she is very deserving of the award. Very. I agree that there are people out there that are potentially doing more for climate change that aren't getting the same attention, but people are talking about climate change because of her. And it's great. What she's doing is fantastic. However, it says a lot about the world that we live in that someone who cares about climate change and is trying to convince people that it's really happening and that we need to do something about it is winning Person of the Year. Everyone should be talking about it. Everyone should be doing something about it. I fully admit that I'm not doing enough about it. I could be doing more. My car has an EcoBoost engine. It's one of the main reasons I bought it. That's about it. That's about all I've done. And yeah, I know she's not saying anything new. She just gets more press. But that's the whole thing. That is her whole thing. And that's why it's so effective. It's the fact that she is not saying anything new. She is saying already established facts discovered by the scientific community. But now people are listening. People weren't before. People were, obviously, but not enough. She has a voice. She has a platform. She's using it for something good. Like, I want to be absolutely clear here. I think it's ridiculous that she's won Person of the Year, but not because of anything she's done. I think she's very deserving of it. But I think that when we live in a world where someone who is coming and reminding everyone of something so much more important than everything that is happening in the world wins Person of the Year, there's something very, very wrong. Very wrong going on. But moving on from that, we've gone from Wonder Woman to climate change. This is why I need guests on the show. They need to keep me on track. Person of the Year is not the correct title. What is the correct title? Issue of the century. issue of the species. Like, yeah. Okay. Again, more DC stuff. There's a lot of DC stuff today that I'm going to see. That I'm going on about. Yet to see anything tangible from her climate push. Well, no, this is the thing with her, and this is what a lot of climate change deniers are using against her, is that none of this is her own research. None of this is. She's not a scientist. She's a 16-year-old girl. It is the fact that she's just trying to get people to listen to stuff that people have already said. And the people who can make those differences weren't listening. And now some of them are being forced to. The other day, Trump sent her a troll tweet. Like, that's another example of what kind of messed up world we're in. It is the fact that I can say to you guys that the President of the United States sent a 16-year-old autistic girl a tweet trolling her, and I'm willing to bet that none of you were surprised. The President of the USA trolling a 16-year-old. Like, what the hell? No, I can't agree with you. You can heist. I agree with you. I'm adding to what you said. But let's move on. Let's go back to some more geeky stuff, because this is one of those. This is one of those very sensitive topics that I would love to talk about on a podcast, but not this podcast, because I love having a good argument. I love arguing about things like whether or not Wonder Woman could survive a bullet to the head, because if you guys disagree with me at the end of this podcast, it's not that big a deal. Who really cares? But when we got into more sensitive subjects like that, I really should try and avoid those kind of subjects. I like you guys to know where I am on it, but I don't want to turn it into a big debate. It's something where if you guys wanted to chat about it in Discord or something like that, definitely up for it. By the way, do come and check out our Discord if you haven't already. My Nightbot has just randomly posted the link. I didn't ask it to. That's worked out quite well. Yeah, I like to have a debate where we walk away from it and there's no hard feelings. You know, and some subjects just get a little bit. It's difficult to continue seeing the person in the same light when you disagree on certain subjects. Elle has too many clothes. This is an argument I've been having with her since we first moved in together. Now she finally agrees with me. Great. Okay. Yeah, another little piece of DC news. Batman, the Pattinson one, has cast Peter Sarsgaard. And supposedly, while on IMDb it doesn't say as who yet, it's potentially going to be Two-Face. Or at the very least Harvey Dent, with a potential lead up to be Two-Face in a sequel. This one's apparently going to have quite a lot of villains, so it's going to be an interesting one. I'm wondering if, in order to keep it kind of DCEU, that they're going to do it as a prequel as well. Given that the Batman we got for the DCEU was meant to be much more like the Frank Miller Batman Returns, an older, more grizzled Batman, whether we're going to go for a younger one here, but the same Batman. I'm also really curious to see if Pattinson's going to get ripped for it, because Affleck was the most muscular Batman. Like, the dude got jacked. My biggest worry with this is I'm not a huge Sarsgaard fan. For anyone who doesn't know who he is, no, I am not pronouncing Skarsgård wrong. It is not another one of Stellan's many, many talented children. he's been in a fair few things, but one of the main reasons I'm worried about him is he's already been in a DC film. He played one of the antagonists in the Green Lantern film, which for anyone who has seen it will know wasn't very good. And he wasn't very good in it. No one was particularly good in it. Even more than Bale, I would say Affleck did get more jacked than Bale. Bale famously put on so much muscle that they actually told him he had to lose weight because he couldn't fit in the costume. The thing is, the Affleck's musculature was one of the reasons why I wasn't 100% pro Affleck as Batman. Batman he's a trained ninja. Surely being slight gives you more of an advantage. And being more flexible as well. The more muscular you get, the less flexible you get. I'm talking about building here, not necessarily toning. The fact that, guys who work out like crazy can't touch their backs because they've got so many muscles. Batman should be able to touch his back. It's just, what if someone chucks a throwing star at him, I suppose the cape's Kevlar. That's why he wears the cape. Because he can't touch his back. You throw a throwing star at him, it gets stuck in his cape, and then he just has to pull the cape around and be like, "Pop." Now we know why Batman has a cape. It's not for gliding or anything silly like that. There's not much more news on this. I want to see villains we haven't seen yet. Joker has been done fantastically. Joker has been done terribly. We don't need to see another Joker at the moment. I love Jim Carrey's Riddler, but Jim Carrey's Riddler was the Joker. It wasn't a good Riddler. It was a fantastic Joker. It wasn't a good Riddler. I would be up for seeing a new Riddler. Two-Face, Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face was great. If you want to see really good Two-Face within the comics, read the New 52. I know a lot of people don't like the New 52, but I love what they did with Batman, and I will argue for days with people about the New 52 Batman and what they did with it, and Two-Face's story in that. They rejigged his origin. They fleshed it out so much more. It's such a good comic. It begins with him waking up, loading a revolver, putting it in his mouth, and flipping a coin. And for anyone who doesn't know Two-Face, his whole thing is he's got this coin that makes all his decisions. All his decisions are left up to chance. And so it paints this realization that right from the get-go, we know that this is a broken man. This is a man who wants to end it all, but is still leaving it up to chance. And it just sets the tone for the whole comic, and it is beautiful in how heartbreaking it was. Blight, yes, absolutely. Howard the Duck film. Not even just the Gunn version, directed by Gunn. Let Gunn do it. He'll do a fantastic job with it. Voiced by Nathan Fillion. Yeah, let's get him properly in the MCU, not as a bit character. I just love anything with Nathan Fillion in it. What other villains have we had on screen? Obviously going back, Penguin. Who are they going to cast to do Penguin that'll do a better job than DeVito did? He was perfect. He was amazing in that role. They're not going to find a better Penguin than DeVito. Although in saying that, a lot of people said the same about Ledger's Joker, and while I still prefer Ledger's Joker, Phoenix's was really good. Really good. Catwoman. No, we don't need another Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer's was pretty good. It was a bit too many puns. I didn't like Anne Hathaway's. It wasn't Catwoman. Selena Kyle maybe, but it wasn't Catwoman. I would love to see a Catwoman that was more reminiscent of how she is in the comics. You know, a career criminal. The backstory as well. Because the backstory for Catwoman, when you get the full one, is really, really good. Robin Taylor's Penguin on Gotham was decent. It was, but it was far too whiny. Like, constantly. So whiny. And I don't know, the entirety of that show, it seriously went downhill for me. The last season of it, God, it was trash. It was so bad. I did like that show as well. I really did. Who else have we got? Okay, so Mr. Freeze. We need a new Mr. Freeze. Let's have a new Mr. Freeze. Yeah, definitely. Poison Ivy as well. Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze were just done so bad. Let's have Poison Ivy, then let's have an Ivy and Harley spin-off. The Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn comics are great. They're so good. Harley Quinn comics, I really like. It's one of my favorite DC comics, is the Harley Quinn series, which is really interesting because I don't like the Joker ones. Joker can't carry a series. He's great as a villain. Clayface would be a really good one. Matthew Perry from Friends as the Penguin. I don't know. I kind of like what they did in the Arkham games, making him Cockney. Was it Troy Baker? Yeah, it was Troy Baker who did him in the Arkham games. Fantastic voice actor. Really, really good. Saw him briefly at MCM London a couple of months ago, but unfortunately didn't get a chance to chat with him. Let's see, Scarecrow. Scarecrow was pretty good in the Nolan ones, but very different to his comic counterpart. I like what they did with Ra's. They don't need to do Ra's again. And it is Ra's, it's not Ra's al Ghul. It is Ra's al Ghul. Bane. I didn't like Bane in any of the films. The first one, Batman and Robin, obviously, he was just terrible. A somehow stupider version of the Hulk. And why couldn't they have hired an Hispanic actor for Dark Knight Rises? Like, that's why he wears the mask. It's like the kind of luchador kind of thing. So, yeah, what's going on there? But yeah, Two-Face and Joker have been done really well. Penguin too. We don't need another Penguin. So let's have Riddler. Let's have Freeze. Let's have Poison Ivy. I would love to see a Scarecrow that is more as he is in the comics, not just a psychiatrist who wears a mask to scare people. No, like, I mean the kind of real dark, twisted character that he is in the comics. Gotham did a pretty good job with Scarecrow, actually. An on-screen version of that would have been quite good. Bring in Bane's dad for Revenge King Snake. Yeah. I don't know if we can make that work in a standalone film. But anyway, right. Got a few more things to go into. Slightly out of order, but because we've been going on this whole DC binge, there've been reports coming out saying that the Snyder Cut of Justice League is definitely not happening. Of course it's not happening. he didn't finish the film. There is no Snyder Cut because he didn't finish filming. He had a perfectly valid reason for it. I'm not going to go into details about it, but look it up if you do want to know. It's tragic. It's awful. But I don't really want to dwell on it. There is no Snyder Cut because he didn't finish the film. And also, who really cares? Who honestly thinks that Zack Snyder can do an ensemble superhero film better than Joss Whedon? Now, Joss Whedon got dealt a shit hand with it because most of the film was already done. And he had to continue in the style that Snyder had set up, which was basically everything is orange. Everything. Let's have some bloody sky beams. Justice League was just a rip-off of several Marvel films. Anyway, the whole thing was about a dude a god with horns trying to get an all-powerful cube. What was I talking about then? Avengers or Justice League? You tell me. I really don't care about the Snyder Cut. If they release a Snyder Cut, I'm not going to watch it. Unless someone that I trust, that I share the same taste in, tells me that it's really, really good, I'm not going to watch it. Because it's still going to be rushed and lame and have Henry Cavill's CGI lip. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it again. Don't make me see it again. I mean, come on. Avengers Assemble. They'd already done 2 Iron Man films. We had origin films for Thor, Hulk, and Cap. Justice League. We had an origin film for Superman. Then we had Batman vs Superman, which told us Batman has been well established for ages. Superman, you remember him? He's in this. Wonder Woman's a thing as well. We don't know how or why, but Wonder Woman's a thing. And also, hey, look at this video file from Lex Luthor where he's conveniently designed their logos as well, right? Flash exists. Cyborg exists. Aquaman. Aquaman's a thing. Let's get excited about that. And then we know those characters exist now, so bugger it. Let's do Justice League. Did Justice League come out before or after Wonder Woman? I have a feeling it was before. They just rushed it. They wanted to catch up with the MCU so badly. So badly. And the thing is, all these films, they make bank. So they're going to keep making them. They're going to keep doing it as long as they keep making bank. Alright, so I'm nearly done with DC. The last thing I'm going to mention that is DC related, unless someone reminds me of something, is my recommendation of what to watch this week. So obviously we got Star Wars coming out. Go see that. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I'll do a review. I will, but it's Star Wars. If you like Star Wars, go see it. No, my recommendation is actually for the TV series of Watchmen. At the point I'm saying this, I think I'm about a week behind. But I think it's really great. I really do. I think it's not without its issues, but I feel as though it stays very true to the original in that it is a slow burner. It is not your typical superhero type TV show. I mean, the first thing with Watchmen anyway is it's not, strictly speaking, superheroes, because there's only one character in the entire thing that actually has superpowers. Everyone else is a costume vigilante. Now, the one person who does have superpowers in it has the kind of powers where if he were to meet God, he would be able to kick his ass. However, you know, that ends up really playing into it. One thing I would say before watching it is that this is set 30 years after the events of the original Watchmen, which takes place in the 1980s. So Cold War is still going, and that is like a really big thing of it. For anyone who hasn't seen or read Watchmen, I mean, first of all, do it. They're both great. The film, actually directed by Zack Snyder, it does take some artistic license with particular things. A lot of the big fans of the comic weren't happy about what that was in particular. But it saved, as someone who had read it at the time, it saved about an hour of view time, and I actually felt made a almost a better ending. Actually, that might be blasphemy. I can't really go into it without spoiling it because I'm telling people to go and watch this, so I don't want to spoil it. Watch it or read it. One thing I will say though is this version has nothing to do with the film. The event that I just briefly glossed over, where the changes were made in the Snyder version to the original Alan Moore comic, it is a very significant moment, and the TV series establishes from maybe 10 or 15 minutes into the first episode that this is 30 years after the events of the comic, not the film. The film is a completely different continuity as far as this is concerned, so do not expect to see cameos from any of the actors who survived the original Watchmen. The show itself focuses mostly around a brand new set of characters that we discover do have a relation in a way to the original Minutemen. For those of you that don't know, the Minutemen were this kind of Justice League kind of group of vigilantes, and the Watchmen graphic novel and film is based around the kind of second group of Minutemen, the ones who continued the mantle, because we're talking like World War II era for the original Minutemen. The acting so far has been of a pretty decent standard. We have seen characters from the original Minutemen and from Watchmen, obviously aged up. Jeremy Irons is in it. It's so difficult to talk about without spoilers, but I would say if you're a fan of the original Watchmen, the series is worth giving a go. You may disagree with me on whether it's good or not, but good. I would love to have that argument with you. TV-wise, Blight Me has brought up Birds of Prey being a potential train wreck. Probably. Doesn't look great. It doesn't at all. Okay, so I'm done with DC. This has been a very DC heavy podcast so far. And oh god, we're crawling towards that 3-hour mark, aren't we? Another big bit of news that came out this week I'm curious about people's opinions on has been the controversy with John Boyega. John Boyega, who best known for playing Finn in the new Star Wars films. This little guy, he's been very, very naughty. In an interview recently, he was asked about dealing with the hate on things like social media. The Last Jedi, of course, as everyone knows, did receive quite a lot of backlash. And can I just say, if you don't like a film because of the direction a character takes, because of the way that it is written, because of the way that it is directed, because of the visual effects. Don't attack the actors. Alright? That's just their job. Okay? If an architect designs a bridge that is going to fail if more weight than 2 cars drives over it, and this is a bridge that is meant to have like a motorway on it, don't blame the construction workers who built it when it eventually collapses, because they're just doing what the architect told them to do. Boyega basically said about how in order to deal with that kind of stuff on social media, you have to be quite strong. That if you're weak-minded, even slightly, you're gonna have a bad time on social media as someone in his position. Now, the problem with this was Kelly Tran, who played Rose in The Last Jedi. She received so much hate via social media about the film that she quit social media. She hasn't returned to it, which is appalling. Because I liked Rose, and even if I didn't, it's appalling to go after an actor because you didn't like their character. Is just the stupidest thing ever. It really is the stupidest thing ever. But so a lot of people were like, okay, is Boyega making a dig against Tran when it comes to all this? He's come out since, and he did like a 4-part tweet or something where he was saying that he wasn't even thinking about Kelly when he made the statement, that it was about his own experiences, about how there were moments for him when he would receive things over social media to do with his performances where he came close to giving up, to, you know, at the very least shutting down his social media, and then other times where he was able to stay strong enough mentally to shoo away the haters, essentially, and that he did not mean any offense towards his co-star. And a lot of people are saying that he's talking a load of rubbish. I'm inclined to believe him when it comes to it, because the question he was being asked, while it seemed simple, really, really wasn't. And I've been thinking about it myself, like, how would I answer that question if I was in his position? And I really cannot think of a way to answer that question without upsetting someone. Like me saying what he said was his truth and should stand on its own. The current culture, being offended for others, is the norm. Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. It was his truth. It was his truth. And like, because what he went into offended a certain number of people with mental health issues, be it anxiety or depression, or the whole variety of awful things that affect so many people, and so many people I care about, and that's what I'm getting into here. I have a number of friends who have depression, who have anxiety. There are certain things I don't tend to share with people that trigger anxiety within me, though I wouldn't class myself as having anxiety. There are things I am easily triggered by, and I feel as though that's always been one of the key differences for me between having anxiety and depression, or being anxious and depressed. The fact that having anxiety or depression as a mental illness, I'm not even sure if that's the right term to use for it, but I'm sorry if that is offensive, for lack of a better term, mental illness, is that there doesn't need to be a trigger. The thing is, I have a lot of friends with those conditions. It seems to be something quite prevalent within the arts, and most of my friends are fellow actors. No two are the same. No two of them are the same, and that is why, and this is why it's such a good way of phrasing it. His truth is such an important thing, and something that he admits himself he should have specified in the original interview. If I talk about something that makes me anxious, the same is not true of everyone with anxiety. I, for example, have absolutely no problem whatsoever with snakes. They do not bother me at all. The venomous kind, I'm going to freak out about, but I don't feel as though freaking out over something that can kill you really counts as a phobia. I feel as though it's common sense. And yet I understand that not everyone in the world is okay with snakes. I have a friend who actually has a pet snake that she can't go near because she got it and then realized that she's terrified of snakes. Everyone has their own personal truth, and this is why what this interview brought to light is so important. You do these days have to be very careful about how you phrase things, because if you're talking about something that affects you, if you don't phrase it perfectly, then it sounds like you're speaking for everyone. And that's not what Boyega was doing. That's not what the question was. The question was about how he deals with it. And that's the answer he gave. And he felt that he was in a safe bubble, because he was asked, how do you deal with this? He's there, he's like, how do I deal with this? And so it wouldn't be the most obvious thing in the world for him to then make it clear, this is my truth. This is how I deal with it, because that's the question he's being asked. The question was not, how do people in general deal with this sort of stuff? How does your co-star who quit social media deal with this? No, it was, how do you deal with this? Whenever I go to conventions and I do interviews there, hopefully some of which might actually be going live at some point soon. We've still got episode 2 and 3 to come. Every now and then I'm asked by one of the people I'm going to be interviewing what I'm going to ask them. I have an interview coming up in episode 3 with Shelley Blonde, who is the original voice actor of Lara Croft, who she is absolutely great when lending her voice to certain things, but is very camera shy. And so she was worried that if I asked her a question she didn't have a pre-prepared answer to, she might get flustered. In the end, she did an absolutely fantastic job, and we did end up riffing a little bit. Like, not all of it was exactly as written, and she did a great job with that. But I think, to be honest, these days you kind of have to. Boyega is a perfect example of it. You ask a simple question and potentially end up making an actor who's just there to promote a film look like an absolute douche. The other example as well is there are so many compilations, definitely worth watching, some of them are hilarious, of actors completely shutting down questions. One's like how was it Jennifer Lawrence, I think? She was asked, what she was wearing to like an award show, and she was just like, are you going to be asking the men that as well? Andy Murray being asked about being the first British Wimbledon champion in so long, and him correcting and saying the male, because female British tennis players have won Wimbledon in more recent years. He was a villain and a victim at the same time with the privilege issue. Yeah, that whole thing. That was Daisy Ridley then getting herself into trouble, talking about how she didn't feel as though she had any real advantage over her co-star John when she she grew up rich. He grew up on a council estate with a single mother. And I know from my own experience, drama school is not easy to get into. And drama school is not cheap. And drama school will have you there minimum 9 to 5 every day. You want to try working a job on top of that? It's, at the very least, it's going to have a serious effect on your ability to do your classes. But anyway, yeah. So I sometimes wish we lived in a world where actors were not praised in the way that they are. One of my favourite actors is Daniel Day-Lewis, purely based on the fact that he has no presence outside of his films. The man has turned up to red carpet events and not been recognised. I used to absolutely adore Chris Pratt. I think he's hilarious. I think he'd be such a fun guy to hang out with. But then I heard his opinions on certain topics. I'm not going to go into them. Then I'm, contradicting my own statement here. And now I kind of feel as though he and I wouldn't necessarily get on that well. Tom Cruise is a great example of it. I love watching Tom Cruise films. Really do. Mission Impossible. The fact I know that they've announced that there's going to be a 7th and an 8th Mission Impossible film. I'm all for them. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think Tom Cruise is a douche and an idiot, and I hate that affects my opinion of his films. So can we just not care about actors so much? I don't like watching interviews and stuff. Brie Larson, all the stuff that was going on with Brie Larson, about her basically, I don't really want to paraphrase it. You guys know what happened with Brie Larson around the time Captain Marvel was coming out. To be clear, I am in no way against feminism or anything like that. I regard myself as a feminist. In the same way as what I was talking about with Greta earlier, I hate the fact that there has to be a term feminism. Why is equality not already a thing? It's 2019. Equality should be a thing. But she was just jumping down the throats of everyone. I saw a compilation of interviews that she did with Don Cheadle and Chris Hemsworth, and Hemsworth made a joke that she took offense to. It wasn't a particularly good joke, but it was clearly a joke. It was a brush it off kind of thing. But because she was on this whole crusade, she wouldn't let it go. And every interview that followed, which you could tell were all shot on the same day, you could see how uncomfortable the others were with her. And I hated the fact that ended up influencing my opinion of Captain Marvel, because I didn't like Brie Larson. Again, to be absolutely clear, everything she has kind of campaigned for, I, to one degree or another, am in support of. I just don't like her methods when it comes to it. But yeah, Star Wars getting themselves in trouble. Alright, so the last thing I want to talk about today is the current issues going on with YouTube and Twitch. Yes, YouTube. Yes, YouTube. YouTube, I know you're listening. I know you're watching. I know you robots are, at the very least. Yes. Yes, I'm going to be talking about how you screwed up again. Yes, I know. I know. And yeah, I'm fully aware you're probably going to put a copyright claim on this video. Again. For anyone who doesn't know, my first podcast, I talked about how messed up the copyright claiming system was with YouTube, especially in regards to music. Long story short, people that had licenses for music were getting their videos copyright claimed by studios who claimed that they didn't have a license, and so all the money for those videos was going to these studios, and the appeal process for YouTube is terrible, to the point where quite often they were losing the appeals, and if you appeal a certain number of times and the appeals are blocked or fail or whatever, then your channel can actually get shut down. The funny thing with this was that video, which had some what was meant to be royalty-free music on it, actually got copyright claimed, and I know that it was automated. I know that it was a YouTube bot that did it, because it got claimed while the video was still privated. I had not made the video public yet. But anyway, this is actually not about copyright issues. This is the current issues for creators. So I'm going to quickly say now, fuck shit ass, because I want to make it absolutely clear that this video, which I will be uploading to YouTube practically as soon as I'm done here, is not aimed at children. It is not. However, it is still family friendly, but not for kids, but for families. Yeah, essentially what's going on, for anyone who doesn't know, is a while back, YouTube made it almost impossible to make money through ads if your channel wasn't family friendly. If you had a video that had too much non-family friendly content in it, they would cut down your ad revenue. Now, a lot of YouTubers get around this through things like Patreon and sponsorships and that sort of thing, but others, it's more difficult, okay? A channel like mine, the only way I'm going to be able to grow it is if I don't make money for a long time, basically. Or make it incredibly family friendly, so as soon as I can start putting ads on, I can get the ads going there. And gaming channels are kind of okay for that. However, the FCC have recently got involved and are cracking down on videos aimed at children because of the way the ads are run on YouTube. They think there are laws stopping adverts being directed at children. And now, there are YouTubers out there that really need to be shut down for this. The biggest example I can think of is Jake Paul. And I'm not just saying that so I can put his name in the tags, but it's going to be in there. Jake Paul straight up markets to young children. It's not even something that he hides. I think even to a certain degree, someone like PewDiePie could be held responsible because he's very aware of the fact that the majority of his viewers are 9-year-olds. There's the whole 9-year-old army meme thing, and he does sponsored videos. So when he's talking about the sponsorships, he is advertising directly to children. Now, I don't feel that with PewDiePie it's to the same degree as Jake Paul. I don't think that PewDiePie necessarily deserves the same level of punishment as someone like Jake Paul. Because Jake Paul, you watch a Jake Paul video and you really, really break it down, something like 50% of his video is sponsorship, is him promoting something. So the issue a lot of people are facing is the FCC have threatened fines of up to $10,000 per video if a video is clearly aimed at children. They're essentially trying to shut down the channels that are being aimed at kids. And the real issue with it is that YouTubers have recently been changing their content, even removing videos, to make them more family friendly so that they can get ad revenue. And there are YouTubers who are quite clearly not aimed at children who might be facing these problems, and we're actually one of them. Gaming channels are one of the ones that are most likely to get hit by these problems. I have videos of me playing video games on my YouTube channel. None of them are aimed at children. None of them. Okay? If children watch, fine. Okay? I don't think I'll get in trouble with mine because I'm not promoting anything. There's no sponsorship. If there are ads running on it, I'm not the one benefiting from those ads. But I know a number of content creators who are genuinely worried, who this is their only source of income, and they don't know what to do, and YouTube isn't telling them. And the worry is that it's all being monitored by the bots. Blight, you're saying that's not true at all. What particular? Let me see what you've put here. YouTube is already COPA and COPA complaint as a site itself, not a content issue. It's a data gathering issue. Yes. Yeah. No, I do agree, and I get that with you. No content needs to change. It's how data is gathered. See, that's interesting, because I have heard about the whole data mining thing as well. However, basically every video on YouTube that I've seen about it has been talking about what I've been discussing here. And yeah, the targeted ads, that is a real issue. And why I'm saying things like the Jake Paul videos, where it's not just targeted ads because of the data mining, as in like the ads where you've got the ad rolls in the middle, but that they're actually doing kind of sponsored stuff, or like merch or something like that. You know, a couple of years back when everyone on YouTube had their own version of a fidget spinner, were they aiming that stuff at adults? No, they weren't. No, that stuff was being aimed at kids. So to a degree, it is about content. There are channels out there. There are channels out there that do like toy unboxings, for example, and many of them are sponsored by the toy makers, and their job is essentially to do ads, and that stuff is coming up in people's recommended, and this is the problem. This is the problem with it. It's the confusion, the not knowing exactly what's going on. Is it the advertisers and the data mining that is going to be the issue here? Am I fine? Let's imagine I'm a YouTube content creator, and I do sponsorship stuff and that kind of thing, and I also have ads on my channel. Now, is it just the ads that are in trouble? Is it the fact that I have a family-friendly channel that kids watch and that these ads are showing on? Is it my fault for that, for aiming my videos at children? Am I completely safe? Is the stuff that I'm doing on my channel causing the problem? And am I liable for it? Because genuinely, I've watched a good few videos about this by various different content creators, from like the really big, the ones that are in the millions, down to the kind of 200k subscriber type ones, and they're all terrified. They're all terrified because no one's talking to them. No one's telling them what the exact issue is and what they can do about it. They're stuck in this weird limbo of, do I do family-friendly content so I can get ads, or do I actively avoid it? You know, and the real thing that is causing this worry for them is the fact that YouTube videos are monitored by bots, and the bots have been making so many mistakes so far. Videos being copyright claimed that shouldn't be. You know, a huge example of it was the whole PewDiePie Alinity thing. She managed to copyright claim his videos despite the fact that they were fair use, and the bots can't recognize fair use. So, and what I said earlier about the appeal process, the appeal process is broken. It doesn't work. It absolutely doesn't work, and I know this because YouTubers, the one that I gave an example of in my last podcast talking about the copyright issues, literally managed to get a letter from the original artist of the music saying, yes, I have given this content creator permission to use this particular song, and the YouTube appeal system still denied it. So basically YouTube are in this situation where they are having to enforce these new rules and they don't currently have the means to do so. You're absolutely right. Content getting mixed into this, mudding up the issue. So yeah, YouTube, please sort it out. Please, I love your content. There was actually recently a sort of protest thing. I don't think it gained much traction because I didn't actually hear about it until the day of. I'm usually quite on top of this sort of stuff, where people were refusing to watch YouTube between the 11th and the 13th in order to protest against the way content creators were being treated as a result of this. What it's going to result in is it's going to result in a much lower quality of content on YouTube. YouTube, when it started off, the content was not by any means good. The best things you could hope for were things where people had recorded like a live performance. The most watched video for years was the evolution of dance, which is great. The video is terrible. It's one guy in the audience doing a single shot on a very old digital camera. The actual content within it, the whole dance, the gag behind it, it's worth a watch. I used to love it. But that's essentially what we're going to be going back to. Production value is going to be shot when it comes to YouTube. The best you're going to hope for is the kind of stuff that I'm doing now. You know, someone talking to a camera in an unedited video shot on a webcam in a spare room in his house. That's a shame. We're going to lose out on a lot of stuff. There's other stuff going on as well. Recently, they're doing a real crackdown on bullying on the platform, and they've already kind of messed up with certain stuff like that. The most notable one of that was that one of iDubbbz's content cops was taken down. For anyone who's never watched iDubbbz, it is not an easy channel to watch. He is very abrasive. He is not politically correct. He is personally against political correctness, and he makes that very clear in his videos. However, his content cops tend to highlight content creators who are toxic. Let's say toxic for politeness. And he did one on a guy called Leafy, who essentially the whole thing behind it was he ended up bullying Leafy in this video because he was doing the content cop because Leafy was a bully. So he was bullying him to give him a taste of his own medicine kind of thing. And so this content cop got taken down, and people are losing their mind over it. I mean, not only are the content cops good, they are good videos. I would strongly recommend watching the Asian Jake Paul one that he did about Rice Gum. I can't believe Rice Gum's channel still exists. But the thing is, Content Cop quite often highlights how bad these content creators are, and for a short period after, you do tend to see a big drop in subscribers for those channels. And if you've ever watched a Content Cop, it's quite right too. I'm not a big fan of iDubbbz's other content. I'm not gonna lie. I've watched a few of his videos, but you know, I do look forward to the next Content Cop kind of thing. Sorry, let's see. They're not being treated poorly at all. Nothing has changed on a creator level at all. We do not control advertising and what content is allowable for ad rev. In my opinion, the main issue here is that YouTube has become the free expression police. Yes, very much so. They will decide what we are allowed to say. Yeah. I would disagree somewhat about the treatment of content creators, purely because a lot of content creators are still getting over the apocalypse that happened a while back. That wasn't entirely YouTube's fault. It was mainly Logan Paul's fault, if I remember correctly. But the thing is, it has given a lot of those content creators something to be afraid of, because they had to go through a period where their ad revenue was seriously cut, and like I said, a lot of them do it as their full-time job. And so any kind of threat to that ad revenue is going to scare them. It's going to scare them. Now, like I said, I say this as someone who doesn't currently have a monetized YouTube channel. I don't upload anywhere near enough. Like, you know, all my stuff is here on Twitch. But it's certainly enough to put me off. And like, I have plans now that I've got the studio and stuff to do more YouTube content, but I'm not sure. I mean, like this whole rant that I'm doing here, this I've seen so many YouTube videos of this. Like, if I got up a bit more research and did some quick editing and stuff like that, yeah, I could make this into a YouTube video, easy. No one would watch it, but I could do it. Anyway, moving on, because I do need to end the stream soon, actually. I haven't had a break. I don't like doing breaks in the podcasts. I really need the bathroom. The last thing is what's going on with Twitch. Twitch, I know this isn't like new thing or anything like that, but the number of big streamers that are leaving Twitch at the moment is it's getting ridiculous. Like, I mean, obviously Ninja, we had him leaving quite early in the year. Shroud has gone as well. Between them, like, I think those two probably had more subs than like every other streamer put together. It's probably not quite like that, but it was a lot. You get what I mean? And people are leaving for Mixer. They're leaving for Facebook. Disguised Toast is making a huge thing about how Facebook is a better platform. It has more potential for this kind of thing. Now, my question is, how is this going to affect Twitch? Is it going to reduce the popularity of the site and have a negative effect on it that way? Or is it going to open up the gates for smaller streamers like myself, for example, to be able to take a step up? I don't know. I'm hoping it's the latter. I like Twitch. It is not without its problems. But what website is, you know? I think to be honest, for me, my biggest issue is that I can understand why you would want to go to another platform, especially when somewhere like Mixer is offering you over $1 million to come to their platform. But let's take Shroud and Ninja, for example, who were making more a week from subscribers than I make in a year from all of my jobs put together. When they started off streaming, they were nothing. Alright, they were good gamers. By nothing, obviously, you know, they were people, they had lives, all that sort of stuff. But Twitch gave them a platform in which they became famous, in which they became rich, in which they managed to make money playing video games. So, while it does have problems, first of all, a little appreciation for the platform that made you who you are. And secondly, yes, Twitch has problems, but you're the ones who have the power to make them change, to make them better. You're the ones that they will listen to. And if they don't listen to you right away, don't just give up and walk away. You can be selfish if you want, because I mean that's what it is. It's self-interest. Okay. I could stay and fight, or I could just go to somewhere where it's going to be easier. For me, and it's just for me, I often choose stay and fight. And you'd argue that it was the game that made the streamer, not the platform. There is that. I'd say that's definitely a factor within it. But at the point those two kind of started out, Mixer wasn't really a thing. Facebook gaming is still barely a thing, though it is picking up momentum fast. Had Twitch not been there, I don't know that they would have been able to make it that big. I think they would have had the potential, given that like, you know, Ninja, for example, got big with Fortnite. That was his main game. It might not be the one he started off with, I don't know. There are games out there like Fortnite. He could have found another game that he was really good at and done really well on. At the time he made it, there wasn't much other than Twitch and YouTube out there. Of course, YouTube gaming, that's becoming a big one as well. It's not just Mixer and Facebook. The thing I would add as well is none of us really know the full details. We don't know if, for example, Ninja did try to fight for ages and just had enough when he realized the change wasn't happening. And if that is the case, then I do fear for Twitch, because the other issue that I was going to bring up with this is how confident are they that it's going to work? Supposedly Shroud took 15% of his Twitch followers over to Mixer. Now, he's doing well on Mixer. He's obviously got a lot of people who prefer watching Mixer to Twitch who've started watching him now as a result. But 15% is not a lot. It is a lot of people because he had a lot of followers here on Twitch. But 15% is not a big portion. And websites shut down constantly. You look at something like Facebook, for example. Facebook as a social media platform is going to be around as long as there are social media platforms, unless Congress shut it down for the various bollocks that they're trying to get away with. However, Facebook gaming, not necessarily. There are things that Facebook have done that just don't really exist anymore. When was the last time you got poked? I haven't been poked in it, and no one's thrown a sheep at me in ages. Can you imagine if you were a streamer and you were making a few thousand, let's say a few thousand a week streaming, and you decided to switch to another platform because you thought that it was the better option, and then said platform shut down? Like, just imagine that. Those big streamers, yeah, I mean, they're set for life anyway, but I don't know. I guess that's my take on it. Anyway, I like uploading videos to YouTube. I like streaming on Twitch. I don't really want to do the others. But that's going to do it for episode 3 of Geek Speak. Thank you very, very much, everyone who tuned in, and for all your opinions and stuff. I especially love Blightme. Thank you so much for giving me another contrasting opinion. I really do appreciate that. I love having an argument, a debate. Let's call it a debate. But I am going to head off now. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. I've been KD for Geek Speak. You have been my wonderful audience. Keep it nerdy, and bye-bye.